Welcome to creating feedback. There are lots of things that we can do with feedback when working with images. In TouchDesigner, we can use feedback for accumulating change over time and creating nice trailing and ghosting effects. So let's look at that feedback effect, but use it to create a tunnel. So what we can do is let's double click on our network editor and add a rectangle. This is going to be our starting point. So first things first, on our common page, let's set this to 1024 by 1024. And we want to do that so we have a nice crisp square to work with. And we use the arrow here to be able to get that drop down. Next, let's go back to the rectangle page, and on our size, let's middle mouse click on our size and scale this up to 0.9. We are actually going to set that alpha to 0 because we don't actually want it to be opaque in the center. And instead, on the border width parameter, we're going to set it to 0.03. Great. Now for our border color, let's change that to I'm going to go with a red. Nice. So we have our red rectangle. Awesome. Let's right click on our rectangle and add a feedback top. Once we've added our feedback top, we can right click on the output of our feedback and add a transform top. We are going to use our transform to be able to create that tunneling effect, but let's leave it here for now. We first want to complete our feedback loop to be able to see those changes. Next up, we're going to add a composite top. The composite top is essential for compositing your original image and the feedback. So first, let's drag the output of our rectangle to the input of our composite, and we can complete this feedback loop by dragging our composite and letting go of it on top of our feedback. Once you've done that, you should see that there is a dotted line between your composite and your feedback. That is a reference between the two, which you need in order to create that iterative nature of feedback. Amazing. All right. So next up, I know that we need to change this operation to something like screen. We want to make sure that we don't have any issues with multiply. Sometimes when using multiply, the pixels can multiply too much and then you have alpha or you have all white and you're like, what happened? So I'm going to change it to screen. All right. Next up here is on our transform top, what we're going to do is we are going to scale down our square. So I'm going to middle mouse click and just scale down. And I'm going to set that to 0.8 by 0.8. And now you can see that there is some iterative effect happening here. If I click on my feedback operator and I pulse reset, we can actually see those lines being drawn. So if at any point you ever accumulate too much feedback, you can click the pulse reset to get you back to where you were before maybe all of your operator filled with pixels, too many white pixels. Okay. Next up here is we are going to use our rotate. We are going to slide our rotate parameter, and as we slide it, we can see how it's creating this iterative geometric effect. I'm going to leave it at -100 because I really like the shape that it's creating here, this infinite geometric shape. In order to change the color of this, I could, go back and I could change the color here in the border color, but that would just change the whole color of my tunnel. Let's say I wanted to create a gradient. What I want to do is I want to right click to insert an operator between my transform and my composite. And I'm going to add an HSV adjust. We are going to use this HSV adjust to change the color. And we're going to specifically use hue offset. You can move the hue offset slider to see how the color shifts inside of your tunnel. So I'm going to find a happy place for that. I'm going to leave it here at, let's go to 50. Awesome. And you can further adjust this by changing the saturation multiplier. Let's say it's maybe a little too bright. You could bring down the saturation multiplier, and what that'll do is that'll fade out the colors in your tunnel, and it will nicely keep it really saturated on the outside, and then the desaturation effect will happen as the feedback goes down in this tunnel. You could also ramp that up if you really wanted to. I'm going to just leave it here at a nice 0.5 or, well, maybe 0.2. Nope, too much. I was going the opposite direction. All right, 0.85. There we go. So that shows that it gets nice and pastel towards the center. All right, so that is working with feedback.